All right, the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. Thank you. Good morning. Ooh, I don't have to scream anymore. I don't have much voice after the hockey game last night. Oh, wow. Our inspiration this morning comes from Franklin D. Roosevelt. The only limit to our realization of tomorrow will be our doubts of today. Adrian. Yes. You look very springy.
I know, and are we all excited? Tomorrow's summer. But I say 80 in Denver. And we're so excited to have Tim Jackson as our speaker. It sounds like a wonderful program. So thank you. And Tom Myers, who really should be a member, with Jeannie, his bestest.
There is
So.
a discount.
Oh, well, he said he's a member.
He's a member, but we have to call him out because this is his first meeting.
Okay, Buzz is here. Stand up, Buzz. He says he's been, I don't know if it's the truth, but he says he's been a long time member and he's finally showing up.
You're never gonna get away from it.
Indeed.
Oh, that's right. I forgot him.
Keep going, camera. That way. Hey, you want to tell your joke?
Don't stop. Well, since Tom Bastian doesn't have any more jokes to tell, I gotta fill in. So the lady walks into church and the usher says, "How are you today?" She says, "Fine. Will you put me in the front row?" And he goes, "I don't think you want to do that. Our pastor is very boring and you'll probably fall asleep." And the lady turns to the usher. He goes, "Do you know who I am?" And he says, "No, I'm the mother of the pastor." And the usher goes, "Do you know who I am?" She goes, "No." Good.
Thank you, Betsy. All right, couple quick announcements today. We do have, I believe, one more spot for sponsors. So if you or your business are interested in being a club sponsor, you can either talk to me or email Tim Grace. So the sponsors are listed. We've got temporary new signs up, but they're also on our ads. They get social media shout outs. So it's a good way to support the club, and your business gets a little bit of recognition also. Grants qualification training. I believe we have 4 people going tomorrow, but if you have any interest in going to Rotary Grants qualification training, it is tomorrow morning at 8:30. It's at Front Range Community College. The link to register will be in the the announcement this afternoon. And next Saturday is the District Learning Assembly. This is a half-day event. I have not personally been, but I've been told it's an excellent way to learn more about Rotary, learn more about the different work we're doing and the programs that are going on. And it's excellent for new and somewhat new people, so you can really get a grasp of what's happening with our district, our clubs, and internationally. That is in Littleton at the Epic campus, which is I just drove by it yesterday, basically Broadway and Littleton Boulevard, so not difficult to get to at all. Do we have general announcements this morning? If so, please come up. Make sure to stay behind the podium and say your name for our scribe.
Good morning, my name is Kimra, and I am here to invite you into a world of wonder. Wonder, absolutely, it is wonder. If you have not yet reached the years of wisdom, and have not yet fallen in love with birds. Birds are worthy of your consideration. On your table, there is an invitation to the Audubon Bash and Benefit, Friday, June 6th, 5 to 8:30. You're invited to wear your favorite tail. All right, there's more details on this. And to learn more about the wonder of this place we call home. Thanks so much.
Wonders. Hey, good morning. Or you guys, some of you all get this Evergreen Living right here. Some of you do. Not everybody does. Some do here. And there's a bunch of kind of obsessive people with M&Ms on the front. But inside of it is a great article on the Wooden Hawk Foundation. Where's Michelle? She's back there, right there. Anyway, check it out. There's a great article there on the Wooden Hawk Foundation. Just for you. It's wondrous.
Good morning, Chris Kazian, Chair of the Community Services Committee. Got two announcements for you this morning. One, Mandy Bisler, that's it, is Mandy. I said Mandy. Mandy's over there. Mandy's not here. Mandy's moving to California, so apparently that's where the gateway to get to California. A lot of our community service people are moving to California. She takes care of the Trex decks, plastic collections on the first Friday of the month. We're going to be looking for someone to take over that program. Really simply, you collect some plastic and weigh it, and send it to an email somewhere from what I was told. So looking for some help with the Trex decks, plastic. Also really excited that on the 14th, we will be participating in the Evergreen Rotary Rodeo. Good morning, I'm gonna be in trouble in the next meeting, I gotta be at. Evergreen Rodeo, we're providing a float in the parade. Janie is our champion of that project. On the 13th, after the meeting here, you're gonna be going where? Dave's place, wherever Dave's. Going over there, Dave's got a float, so we're asking to bring your staple gun, your hammer, nails. If I had a hammer, we'll sing that for a while or something. And put the float together. We're also looking for people to participate on the 14th, walking in the parade and sharing our vision of Rotary with our
Being on the float.
on the float
Does everyone know where you gathered, where the float gathered?
by Excel.
In front of the Excel on the side street there by South Hill Scenic Drive and the Catholic Church. And I don't know our number yet,
I don't know our number either, but
so just look for the float.
Janie sent an email out, I believe, on this. We'll probably send another one out and get you some good participation so far. Need more?
2 people.
2 people. So we got 2 people. All right, I got 2 people looking for 3. Looking for 3. Do I got 3? I'm looking for 3. Do I got 3rd? Looking for 3rd. Looking for 4th. Do I got 4th? We're working on the 4th. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Hi, Jeff Stone, member of the check-in team here. I thought I would repeat my announcement from last week because apparently a few of you thought I was joking. But no, I'm really serious. I have on the check-in team, I've been doing that for 2 years. I started when I was a brand new member. It's been a wonderful job. It's a great way to get to know all the names of people that come to the meetings, get to know everybody. So it is an opportunity for new members. And I have already told Adrian that I would continue for another year, and I'm happy to do that. I really enjoy it, but I don't want to hog this opportunity for another year. If there's another person out there, especially a new member who would like this, I'd also be willing to turn that over. So, Todd, Ken, any new member, talk to me or Adrian about that. Thanks.
We're back to a long time ago.
Erica Sprinkle, and I think Jeff, I followed you the last time I made this announcement. As you guys know, Mandy's leaving, and so we need another scribe on the scribe team. So if anybody would like to do that, please let us know. Also, the speakers board is having a meeting after this meeting this morning. So if you're interested in being part of the speakers board,
I still need somebody to send out the announcements weekly for the meeting announcements, so you know who is going to be here. But we're just gonna meet right in here after the meeting.
Thanks for getting a yogurt shrapnel taken out. I have for those of you who made it Monday to the memorial ceremony, I hope you enjoyed it. We had a good time presenting it. Unfortunately, unfortunately, we couldn't do the flyover, but the Lord was with us and it didn't rain on us. But next year, we're gonna have the flyover. We're also gonna have the Revolutionary Guard back with us as well. So if you missed it this year, come on out next year. Speaking of the Legion and the veterans, we have an opportunity this morning. On your tables, you'll see a flyer that is offering an opportunity for you to participate in the Legion's first raffle that I know of. We're going to offer three different prizes. First prize is a interior or exterior detail to your car. Second prize is $150 to True Clean, and the third prize is a $50 gift card to True Clean. On True Clean, they've been great to us and have donated these prizes. So if you feel the opportunity to support us, I have some tickets with me. See me after the meeting. Thank you.
I'm gonna come to you.
Oh, thank you. I don't move very fast. Hi, everybody. I'm Kelly Garrett. I'm co-chair of the International Services Committee. And a lot of you expressed interest in what do we do and getting more involved. And I just want to let everybody know that next Saturday, June 7th, we're having a potluck at Nikki's house. She's the other co-chair of the ISC at 3 o'clock. You have information. If you want to attend, please let me know. We'd love to have you. As many committee or as many club members as you can get together. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Chris Kazian here. I'm also with the fire department. Monday, we have a golf outing. Highline, still have room if you want to golf. It's an awesome cause for our AED program. Love to get a few more golfers on the golf course. Monday, weather looks good. It's gonna be an awesome time. I think we tee off at 8:30 or something like that. So let me know if you want to golf Monday.
And I don't want to hear anybody say they're bored over the next couple of weeks, because there's a lot going on. Okay, Jen, would you like to come up? Okay, good morning, everybody. Good morning, everyone on Zoom. So good to see you. I was there for a while and anyway, it's good to see you. Okay. I would like to have two members come up. One is a member that's been a member for 16 years, Annette Bradley. Please join us up here. Todd Rader is a brand new member, and we're going to get to know them a little bit better this morning. Yay. Okay, Todd and Annette. All right. So most of you probably know, if you don't, you're gonna know that Annette has been a member of this Rotary Club for about 16 years. She's married, she has 4 children, lives down the hill now, and she was a flight attendant for United. Interesting fact. Todd Rader, brand new, you may or may not know. He is married, 4 kids. He's from Pennsylvania, been in Colorado for 5 years. Interesting fact about him, he used to work at Mario Andretti's home. Kind of cool. Okay, first question we're going to ask you both is to tell us what your first job ever was. You want to go first, Annette?
So my first job was a flight attendant. I didn't have to work. Yeah, only 5 years. So yeah, it was a wonderful experience, and it was back in 1970. So it was hilarious. You had to be almost, I shouldn't say this, but if you were overweight 3 pounds, you couldn't do the trip. It was more of a modern thing back then. That's why I always wear lipstick.
Not too exciting either. My first job was as a landscaper when I was 16. Fun back. with that landscaper. They were an award-winning company. I did get to participate in the Philadelphia Flower Show, which was very exciting. If any of you have ever been to that, it's quite a sight to see. Probably one of the world's greatest flower shows.
Awesome. Next question is, tell us what your favorite book is and why.
Well, my favorite book is the Bible, and I was brought up Catholic. I went to Catholic school from grade school, all-girl academy for high school, and to St. Norbert's up in Green Bay, Wisconsin for college. So Bible was my #1 book, and it still is.
Well, not much of a leisure reader, but when I was quite a bit younger, I may have been somewhat of a trouble from both my parents, who were English teachers, and had to read a book called Sound and the Fury from William Faulkner, which eventually did get me out of trouble. So I guess that was my favorite book.
Last question, if you could have any superpower in the world, what would it be and why?
Well, if I could have a superpower, I would love to be an executive chef. Because when I was growing up in Chicago, in a suburb, my mom wasn't a good chef. And so I always wanted that dream. So fine dining is my #1 thing to do for fun. Yeah, so that's okay.
Yeah.
Well, I do like to travel, so I guess if I could fly, I could certainly check off quite a few of those bucket list places I'd like to get to. So I guess flying would be it for me.
Awesome. Let's hear it for Todd.
Thank you, Jen. Okay, I think with that, we are ready for our speaker. We got give him a little bit extra time today. So I'm gonna let Tim tell you his story, because if I try and give you a brief bio, it's gonna be really boring, and you all got an email the written bio he gave us. So I'm gonna let him take it from here.
Thank you so much, Andy. And thanks for the opportunity to be here with you. Do the quick bio, and that is, I've been in association management for about 35 years. I'm a Missouri native, been in Colorado for 28 years. And, but I was, grew up in Northwest Missouri, north of Kansas City. And the first 2 associations I managed were in Jefferson City, the state capital. And one was the JCs, the Junior Chamber of Commerce. And the second was Police Chiefs Association. And then I went to the National JCs in Tulsa, Oklahoma, as the executive vice president there, came to Colorado from there. I'm a licensed private pilot, and I got my pilot's license at age 19. I don't use it much anymore, but it's still valid. All I have to do is do the check ride and the physical, and I'm back in the air. But I do fly a lot, and I'm a United frequent flyer. So I'm on United a lot. I've been, let's just jump into the program, but this, we're going to talk about personal mobility, because we as Americans, or we as people in the of Earth, we want to go places, and we want to go there. We want to get there the most convenient way, the most efficient way, and usually the quickest way, without interruption. Cars are essential. Jim and I were talking about that earlier. Cars are essential to travel today in not only the US, but the world. But the precursor to cars were bicycles. And bicycles were first becoming prominent and as a means of getting around, but not until the late 1800s. And a lot of the earliest car guys and car gals were bike techs before they started building cars. People like Carl Benz, who founded Mercedes-Benz. He was a bike tech in Germany before he started building cars. Henry Ford in Dearborn, Michigan, before he started Ford Motor Company and building the Model T. Henry Ford was a bike tech at the Detroit Bicycle Company. And Ransom Eli Olds at Oldsmobile, David Buick, founder of Buick, were all bike techs before they started building cars. Back to Carl Benz, he's after he was building bikes, he started putting 3 wheels on them, and then he started putting 4 wheels on them. Then he started putting engines on them. That's what became first motorcycles, and then cars. What interestingly, and I'm a pretty avid cyclist too. I do about, if in a good year, I'll do 3,000 to 4,000 miles a year on a bike.
And I've done Ride the Rockies 16 times. It's no longer around. They shelved it, but I've done the Ride the Rockies ride across Colorado 16 different times. But anyway, the first bicycles were not what you would think about as they were missing two key components. One was they were missing, of course, brakes, but they were missing pedals. The original adult bicycles were like the little 3-year-old bikes you see in the store. You'd sit on it and you literally moved yourself with your feet on the ground. And then you'd hope for a hill, but because it made it a lot easier moving the bike if you had a hill, but you hope it wasn't too steep a hill because you didn't have brakes, okay? Then they started, somebody figured out if we put pedals on the bikes, they'd be a lot more effective, a lot more efficient, and get around a lot better. As soon as pedals went on the first bikes, they went on every bike. So pedals became essential to bikes. There we go. There's some of the earliest motorcycles where they started putting motors on bikes, and then you had Orville. I'm going to shift to aviation for a minute, because in that same era, 1903, by the way, if there was such a thing as a time machine, the era that I'd want to go back to is from 1900 to 1920. It was really, I think, historically, one of the most significant time periods for society. And why I say that, it's when bicycles were really perfected, motorcycles were perfected. Orville and Wilbur Wright, as you probably know, were over in Dayton, Ohio, building the plane for the first flight. Where did they build it? In their bike shop in Dayton, Ohio. What I didn't know until I got a book out and I've got a chapter on Orville and Wilbur Wright. It wasn't until I started researching that I found out Orville and Wilbur Wright is not as, you probably didn't know this, or I didn't know it. They also had a car dealership in Dayton, Ohio. So they were really mobility experts. They were all about bikes, airplanes, and even cars. So, and then also in that era, Rotary. Rotary started in 1905 in downtown Chicago, Illinois. And so, and a lot of the big main, let's say, successful service clubs started in that era. So it's really an important era. And of course, cars. So cars in the 1900 to 1920 time period, there were over 2,000 automakers working to get up, getting their cars down the road. It's over 2,000. Now, when you think about that, here we are 125 years. By the way, as you might imagine, most of those were not successful. Most of those didn't make it. They were starting, car companies were starting in backyards, in barns, in livery stables, in blacksmith shops. And I would say in driveways and garages. We didn't even have driveways and garages because we didn't even know yet that we needed them. Now, most of those car companies didn't make it. 125 years later, there are fewer than 30 automakers worldwide. Let's take China out of it. China's a unique exception, but take China out of it. There are fewer than 30 automakers around the world that produce 95% of the production cars around the world. And so back to the early days. Now we know Detroit is Motor City, of course, but a lot of car companies started in Michigan, but there were car companies right here in Colorado. There was an electric car company in Longmont, Colorado at turn of the century, 1900. There was a car company in downtown Denver that was in the Fillmore Auditorium building that was built as a car factory before it was a Fillmore Auditorium. But there was, Henry Ford gets a lot of fame and glory and credit for the early days of the auto industry, and he deserves all of that. But there was a guy that doesn't get quite as much credit, and he was over in Lansing, Michigan in 1898. And that's a guy by the name of Ransom Eli Olds. Ransom Olds, founder, of course, of Oldsmobile. But this was his first Oldsmobile. It was a curved dash Oldsmobile, and it was 1898. Now, to put that in timeline perspective, 1898, that was 7 years before Rotary, right? But it was 8 years before Henry Ford started building the Model T over in Dearborn. He was building the curved, by the way, I looked at that and I thought, well, there's not even a dash. How can you call it a curved dash Oldsmobile? The dash on the original cars wasn't inside the car. The dash was in front of the car. It was like where you would have a bumper today. So that was why it was called the curved dash Oldsmobile. Here's why I say Ransom Eli Olds was very ahead of his time. And that was because in 1898, he already had franchise dealers. He was smart enough to know he had his hands full building the cars. He wanted to have somebody selling the cars. So he had franchise dealers. He was building the curved dash Oldsmobile on the assembly line in Lansing, Michigan. Now, his assembly line worked different than those today and different than Henry Ford flipped the script on that. Ransom Olds' assembly line in Lansing was where the cars stayed stationary and the workers moved down the assembly line. And then, of course, Henry Ford flipped the script and all the other auto companies do it the way Henry Ford does. In 1900, I was telling Jim about the Denver Auto Show. It started in 1902. The first major auto show in the US was 1900 in New York City. And Ransom wanted to take his curved dash Oldsmobile to that. He didn't make it there. He made it there the next year in 1901. He sent one of his senior managers from Lansing out and drove the curved dash Oldsmobile to New York. They allowed 8 days to get it there. Think about that. There wasn't paved roads, you know. He drove it along the Erie Canal going to New York City. And he got it all muddy on the Erie Canal and he got to New York City. The headquarters hotel for the New York Auto Show is one that's still pretty famous today, the Waldorf Astoria. He pulled into the Waldorf Astoria and they wouldn't let him park the car because it was all muddy. And this guy had never been to downtown Manhattan or New York City. So he had to go around New York City and try to figure out how to clean the car. You know, he had to clean it not only to get it in the hotel, but to get it in the auto show. He figured, and by the way, it was predated car washes or automatic car washes. He finally figured out how to get it washed. He got it to the floor of the show, got it in the hotel, got it to the floor of the show. Ransom Eli Olds invited all of his franchise dealers because in 1901, even though he'd had people sign his sales and service agreement to agree to sell the car and service the car, most of them hadn't even seen the car. Most of them hadn't seen any car. So he invited all of his dealers to New York City to see the curved dash Oldsmobile. And he figured that he wanted to see the public to see the car, but he really needed his dealers to see the car. And I don't know how you do that in 1901. I don't know if it's smoke signals or telegram. It was way before Al Gore invented the internet, so he couldn't send them an email. But he did get some of his dealers there. One of his dealers liked the car so well that he ordered 750 of them. Now, what's cool about that is Ransom Olds hadn't even built 750. He'd only built about 500. But Ransom Olds, being the marketing genius that he was, he said, that's a pretty big story. But he says, if you'd round it up to 1,000, we'd have a bigger story. And the guy rounded it up to 1,000. It took Ransom Olds 2 years to build the first 500 for the order. But, pardon me, Oldsmobile was one of the 3 companies that was in the original major roll-up. And that was the roll-up into General Motors. And that happened on September 25 of 1908. And those 3 companies were Cadillac, which started in Detroit, Buick, which started in Flint, Michigan, and Oldsmobile, which started, of course, in Lansing. And the GMC truck came the same year because Buick had a truck. I think it was called the Maxwell, but Buick had a truck besides the car. And so when they started General Motors, they figured they'd just change the name of the Maxwell to GMC. So GMC truck started in 1908. Now, what's cool about that story, and I didn't know this until I did the research on the book. General Motors sent a GMC truck in 1909. The company's just a year old now. The brand is just a year old. Sent a GMC to Colorado to climb Pikes Peak because they figured if they could prove that the GMC could climb Pikes Peak, people would believe in it. So Ransom Eli Olds stayed. He went with the roll-up to General Motors. He left the company in 1911. He didn't really like the corporate world. He wanted to go out on his own. He wanted to start another car company. And he wanted to call it R.E. Olds Motor Works. But General Motors had bought the naming rights to Olds and Oldsmobile, so they wouldn't let him do that. So he went with just his initials, REO. I told you Ransom Olds was a visionary. He figured what Americans are going to need more than cars are trucks. So he started a truck company and he called it REO, and he needed a brand for the name of the model. And I don't have to Yeah, I know, I see people's head nodding. What was the name of the brand?
Speedway.
REO Speedwagon. This is the first REO Speedwagon. REO Speedwagon started in 1917. And in Lansing, Michigan. Now, what's cool about that story is the band came much later, of course. 70s. You said that. 72. Correct answer. So correct answer. So REO, Ransom Olds died in 1947. Henry Ford died in 1949. And by the way, REO Speedwagon Truck Company merged with Diamond Trucks in 1925. They kind of merged the names, so they came out with Diamond Rio, REO, Diamond Rio. By the way, that's another band, country band.
Yeah,
I
like rock and roll.
Diamond Rio started the band, the truck company in 1925, the band 1982, and that was Nashville, Tennessee. Here's a quick story on the REO Speedwagon, the band. In Champaign, Illinois, at the University of Illinois, a professor would come into his transportation class and he teaches students about a different car company every day of the class. And one of those students happened to be starting a band. And the band was so young it didn't even have a name yet. And when he told the story about REO Speedwagon, the student figured that's the name for a band. The truck companies are already out of business, so there was no naming violation. So that was, but think about that. Put that in perspective. 1972. Look at the calendar. We're in 2025. 53 years later, I watched REO Speedwagon for about the third time live on stage at Fiddler's Green last August. And the lead singer goes to the microphone and he says, I was with the band when we started in Champaign, Illinois, 1972. So I can't find where REO Speedwagon, Ransom Eli Olds was a musician at all, but he was the inspiration for not only one, but two famous bands. And by the way, the other one started in Nashville. It was a house band for a dance hall in Nashville, Tennessee that was owned by the Grand Ole Opry. But they needed a name for the house band. They couldn't call that house band the Grand Ole Opry. It's not an Opry hall. So they were throwing mud against the wall to see what stuck. They figured something automotive, something trucking, it had to be country. So they came up with Diamond Rio. But that's 43 years later now. And I saw them live at the Grizzly Rose last year. So two famous bands, and they're both in operation today. Let's, in the interest of time, and thanks for the extra time, but give me a 10-minute warning, a 5-minute warning, and a 2-minute warning, and I promise I'll finish on time. So let's fast forward to the present. And as you heard from Annette, she was a flight attendant. There's a lot in the news right now about safety and aviation safety. I've done about 52 Rotary clubs over the last year. Most of those, I had a big goose egg when I talked about aviation fatalities. Now we have 67, but you all know when that happened. It was in January in Washington, D.C., and one accident created 67 fatalities. But during that, and you had to go back 15 years prior to that in the US of A to find the most recent previous commercial aviation fatality. Not private aviation, but commercial aviation. Commercial aviation is very, very safe, and that's important to the conversation. On traffic safety, in the past 10 years, there's been 423,000 people killed. But on average, each year, it's about 42,000. Luckily, in 2024, it was down to about 39,000. But let's put that in perspective. The high water mark on traffic fatalities was in 1972. So that was the same year the REO Speedwagon band started. 1972, that number was 52,000. Now, so we've gone from 52 to 42, and now even 39. Let's say a 20% drop. Bravo. But that doesn't tell the whole story, because between then and now, between 1972 and 2022, we as Americans have tripled the number of vehicle miles traveled. So in 1972, it was, we as a society here in the US of A traveled 1.1 trillion miles. By 2022, you see a little glitch on the screen. Everybody knows what that glitch was. COVID. But traffic came right back, okay? So in 2022, we traveled collectively 3.3 trillion miles. So even though we've tripled the number of vehicle miles traveled, we've actually still decreased the vehicle fatalities. I mean, it'd be great to get that number down to a goose egg or very low, but it's we're maybe going in the right direction now. Another challenge with cars, and cars are essential, but they are so essential, they're very popular, so we all have them. I looked at the parking lot here as all those spots filled up. And this image is supposed to depict the 405 outside of LA. So in 405, it's about 12 lanes each direction. But if you've ever traveled to 405, all 12 of those are really packed. And at some point, I'm all for building more lanes. I'd like to have more lanes on every road and have people get where they're going faster. But there is a concept in traffic planning, and that is called induced demand. If you build more lanes, eventually you're gonna fill them up like they have the 405. At some point in time, I think we can all agree, as much as I'd like to have more lanes, at some point in time, there's no space for many more lanes. So at some point in time, we need to take transportation from 2-dimensional to 3-dimensional. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about. There's one other thing, and the auto industry gets criticized a lot for, I know you've heard about it, and maybe you have a concern there, vehicle emission. And vehicle emissions are a real thing unless you're driving like the lady that I met that's driving the Mustang Mach-E out there. Great car, I had one, I had the first one in Colorado. But vehicle emissions, but new cars today are virtually emission-free, whether they're gasoline, diesel, hybrid, plug-in hybrid, or electric. They're basically emission-free there's 2 types of emissions. And one type, they're basically emission-free, and that's on ground cloud emissions. So ground cloud, like what you see here, about 50 years ago over Phoenix, and now the skyscraper looks more like this. That's from where we used to live downtown Denver, looking east. So new cars today on brown cloud emitting, and that's ozone enhancing or asthma inducing emissions. Every new car in every dealer showroom today is 99% cleaner. By some studies, 99.7. I'll go with the conservative number. Just 99% cleaner than anything available for sale in 1972. Now there's another type of emissions, and that's what gets talked about most today, and that's CO2 or climate change emissions. We're not 99% better on those because not everybody is driving the Ford Mustang Mach-E or another electric car. So we're not 99% better, but we've improved about 28% just in the past 10 years. And that's because of 2 factors. One is improved fuel economy, so better fuel economy, less gas through the intake is less carbon emissions through the exhaust. And second is electrification. And that electrification, then that can come in the form of hybrids, plug-in hybrids, or full battery electric vehicles. And I've had 5 battery electric vehicles myself, and I'm here today in a plug-in hybrid. I love both, and they're both good cars. But back on aviation, automotive, where aviation is way ahead of the automotive sector on safety, automotive sector is way ahead of aviation on emissions. Because the aviation sector, the Boeings, the Airbuses, the aircraft manufacturers haven't figured out how, and they can't really do it, figured out how to electrify a 737, a 57, 67, 77, or an 87. The batteries become self-defeating. As many batteries as it would take, it would weight the vehicle down where they couldn't get off the ground. But they are looking at a new type of aircraft, and you'll see more on these, and they're called VTOLs. And VTOL, and I'll do the breakdown on that, it's a vertical takeoff and landing vehicle. And think of it for slang flying car. VTOLs, there's 200 companies, not 2,000, but there are 200 companies working to get off the ground, pun intended here, with flying cars or VTOLs. And you can put a little E in front of it, and that's because they're all battery electric, every one of them. And they're exploring hydrogen too, but they're all battery electric. I've got a book out, and as I was coming up here, I told Mindy, I think on email, I was really glad to get to this Rotary Club because the cover of the book, you recognize that picture. And I was driving up here, and I did swing my camera in front of the windshield because I do this every time when I'm coming by Genesee because I love that view. It's one of my favorite views in Colorado, and I put it on the cover of the book. The book came out a year ago this month. It's out on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and Walmart and all those. But Amazon has a really good tracking system, and it was #1 as a bestseller new release in the first month out in automotive, aviation, transportation, mass transit, also automotive history, automotive technology, and I don't know why mass transit, but it is. And then just non-category overall, the soft cover was ranked or made it to #7 bestseller for the first month new release, and the hardcover, because they've got a different ISBN number, got to #15. It's also in an ebook and an audiobook, and I've got copies here if you want one. Let's go on. As bicycles were precursors to cars, motorcycles, and airplanes, drone technology is the precursor to the VTOLs and the flying cars. And I've been fascinated by drones. I've never owned a drone. Who in the room's ever owned a drone or driven? There's somebody. So I've been fascinated by it. I've just never owned one. But you may know, and you may have seen Jeff Bezos as a guest on 60 Minutes. This was about 5 or 6 years ago. He was in the lead segment, Jeff Bezos, founder of Amazon. And he went on 60 Minutes to say, we're going to start package delivery by drone. And of course, if Amazon is doing it, Walmart's got to get in the game. And Walmart's announced they're going to do package delivery by drone. Now, let's stop. There's others. Medical devices and pizza delivery. I just read last week, DoorDash is experimenting with drone deliveries on food orders by doors. So they wouldn't have a car drive up in front of your house. You'd have a drone fly in front of your backyard and drop off your order. Okay, it's all in test mode. But let's just ask the basic question, or answer the basic question of why. Why would Jeff Bezos and Amazon or Walmart want to go to the air with their deliveries? It's for all those challenges I mentioned earlier: congestion on the highways, traffic fatalities, emissions, time of delivery. We all know, and we've all heard this phrase, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. A drone is going to fly a straight line between where it departs the warehouse and where it gets, or the kitchen, if it's a DoorDash, and gets to your backyard. It's going to go a straight line. And in that straight line, when you get in rush hour traffic, you know how important a straight line is. So drones are replacing, drone shows are replacing fireworks shows for the 4th of July and New Year's Eve. These two images, and they're not perfect images here, but just bear with me or Google them. 2024 was the year of the dragon for Asian culture. The one on the left is the South Korean dragon. The one on the right is the Chinese dragon. Now, let me just tell you something about those. You're seeing them in still frame here. But if you Google them or watch them on YouTube, you can do the South Korean South Korean drone show New Year's Eve, and you'll see this one in motion, and eventually bites in on the sun, and then all the lights light up white. Okay, the Chinese dragon, well, they both move. I know you've seen drone shows, but they move in the air. Now, what's important to that is, I'm going to tell you something you know instinctively, but we just don't think about. But let me remind you, there aren't pilots up in those, flying those. They're all being flown autonomously, right? They're all being flown through technology. And they are so good, they're replacing things that we've known for many years, fireworks and the like. So drones are the precursor. They're using drones for medical delivery in the Congo to get medical devices or medical needs to places in the Congo you can't even get by aircraft or boat or car. And of course, they're doing the deliveries. So back on the flying cars. So this was an article in the New Yorker. This would be worth Googling, okay? It's in the New Yorker this month, or April last year. And it says, our flying cars already here. We're finally here. And then it shows this one. We're going to go in a little more in depth. There's two types. One is the flying taxis. And that's what we'll see first. And that's what will become more proficient and more commonplace first. Air taxis. So instead of taking an Uber or Lyft to the airport, you could get on an air taxi and take it to the airport. Now, I go to the airport from downtown Denver. If it's rush hour, I allow from downtown Denver, it's only 18 miles, but I allow an hour and 15 minutes. By flying car, it will be 8 or 9 minutes. Okay, then the other type would be a personal aviation vehicle. And that's one that, just like your car, you can land in your driveway, park in your garage, and some of them are small enough you can throw in the back of an F-150, take them to the mountains or to the beach. Okay, 10 years ago, Peter Thiel, one of the co-founders of PayPal, created the Founders Fund, which is an investment fund. And they created this manifesto. And he said, we wanted flying cars. And he was frustrated by the pace of technology change, okay? He said, what we wanted was flying cars, and what we got instead was 140 characters. So instead of flying cars, we've been spending time on social media, getting Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and all that. So I was up at a Rotary Club in Erie, it's an evening club, and did a presentation. I'm coming back and I get all these Google alerts. One of the Google alerts was Boeing wants to have flying cars in the air by 2030. Well, luckily for me, I already knew that because I'd already seen their flying car. This is called the Whisk Arrow. The guy standing to my left was the founding CEO of the Whisk Arrow. The Whisk Arrow started out appropriately named. It started out by, it was founded by Larry Page, co-founder of Google, in 2010. That happened to be the same year that Google Corporate founded Waymo, the autonomous car company. But this was a personal project of Larry Page, co-founder of Google. And it was to build a flying car. So this was his flying car. It was called appropriately Kitty Hawk, as a nod to Orville and Wilbur Wright. And in 2020, 10 years later, he sold Kitty Hawk flying car to Boeing, and Boeing's been developing it out. Now, let me tell you something about this one, other than that's different about others that I'll show you on the screen. It's being built. It's called WISK, W-I-S-K, Arrow, A-E-R-O. It's being built like a drone. No pilot controls. You won't fly it, it would fly you. And they've already contracted, WISK has already contracted for air mobility services around Houston, Texas. There's a suburb like where Broomfield has the Jeffco Airport, or the Rocky Mountain Airport, Centennial has Centennial Airport. There's an airport, a regional airport called Sugar Land. Anybody around familiar with, like the band, okay, Sugar Land. But Sugar Land, Texas, Whisk Arrow has a contract to do urban air mobility or flying taxis from Sugar Land Airport over to George Bush Intercontinental and over to Houston Hobby and over to Houston downtown. And if they get off the ground, and I'm gonna say when they get off the ground, it will be autonomous. So you would fly in it the way you fly in anything else, you just wanted to fly. Okay, I was interested in where all this is happening at. So I couldn't find a map, so I created a map. The white flags or stakes in the ground are where the corporate headquarters. It's heavily dense in California, as you might imagine, Fort Worth, Texas, Florida, even up in Vermont. But then here's the worldwide map. And the worldwide map looks a lot like an automotive map. It's where automotive factories are headquartered, is where the flying car companies are also headquartered. But where Detroit is the motor city for cars, Silicon Valley is the motor city for flying cars. And a lot of the, like Whisk is headquartered in Silicon Valley. Let's just go back to the history. I'm old enough to remember the Jetsons. Most of you are probably old enough to remember the Jetsons. But we also remember Back to the Future had a flying car, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. Now that's a Broadway show in New York City. And of course, Harry Potter, and there's others. James Bond 007 had a flying car. The Jetsons was on ABC television in 1962. And I'll go ahead and age myself, I was 5 years old. They had a 28 episode series. But what's important about the Jetsons to this conversation is all of the technologies that were featured on the Jetsons in 1962 have come to fruition, except for the flying car. Think about it, the pop-up toaster, the elevator, the flat screen TVs, the talking telephones, the conveyor belts, all that, microwave oven, but we don't have the flying car yet. Now, if you remember when George Jetson, remember that? When George Jetson flew his flying car, he'd get to the other end and he'd fold it up and put it in a briefcase. You won't be able to do that, not with the Whisk Arrow. But anyway, by the way, the Jetsons still today, and this is meaningful for this conversation. The Jetsons today, I'm told, I can't verify this, but is the most watched syndicated show today, whatever, 62 years after it was on the air. 62 years later. So I was 5 years old and I knew the Jetsons because I was watching it in real time. But ask any 5-year-old today and they know the Jetsons. They also know the Flintstones. So here's, I've moved on the flying cars. I'm gonna tell you my journey. I'm gonna be really quick. I've moved from a skeptic to a believer. And I've moved from the basic question of if this is going to happen to the more immediate question of when. And a lot of people ask about, well, where's Elon Musk on this? He's not a heavy investor in any of these. I did find not Tesla, but SpaceX investing in one of the personal aviation vehicles. But he was asked about it just in one of his, 5-second interviews. And they said, hey, are we gonna get flying cars? And he said, it's not a matter of if, but it's only a matter of when. So this one I got to see live and in person. This is one to watch. This is Archer Aviation. Archer Aviation. And by the way, I left one part out. What's moved me is where the investment's coming from. And the investments are coming from 3 distinct and very important industries. One is aircraft manufacturers, such as and including Boeing, Airbus, Bell Helicopter, Textron's parent company, and Embraer out of Brazil. Okay. Second, and I think I have that one up there, that list. And second is airlines, and that includes United, Delta, American, Southwest, and JetBlue. And then closer to home, car companies, Mercedes-Benz and BMW, and Stellantis, formerly Chrysler, and Toyota. Toyota's invested in one. Hyundai has its own program. Honda has its own program. Stellantis is invested in Archer. Let's do a quick vocabulary. Vertical takeoff and landing vehicles, VTOLs. But it's kind of clunky. How am I doing with that? Perfect. I'm right where I need to be. Might even have time for Q&A. The other is electric. You can call them flying cars, flying taxis, or air taxis. But there are also passenger drones. And then this whole industry is called, or this whole development, whether it's drones or flying cars, VTOLs, is all in the FAA lingo called advanced air mobility. I'll do a quick sidebar since I'm okay on time. On Monday, I'll do a lunch presentation at a Rotary Club. I'll go directly to the airport, fly to Washington, D.C. I've got a scheduled briefing with FAA. It's them briefing me, not the other way around. But FAA is briefing me on where they think they're at on this whole sector. And I'm taking a couple of other Coloradans that are meeting me up there that are real interested in it. One's a past director of aeronautics for the state of Colorado. Okay, now also this was important to the conversation. In Las Vegas, October 22 last year, I was signed up to attend. I've been attending automotive conferences for 30 years. Now I'm attending aviation conferences. These pictures were taken at the National Business Aviation Association annual meeting in Las Vegas, in the Las Vegas Convention Center. At that, you had Mike Whitaker, who was then FAA administrator. Since we've had a different president, he went out when Trump got elected, they've got a different FAA administrator. But he signed into law a new regulation, which is 850 pages. By the way, it will govern your drones when it's fully effective and govern the VTOLs. And also standing beside him is a guy named Sam Graves. I recruited him into a JC chapter in Tarkio, Missouri literally 45 years ago. And now he's the chair of the U.S. House Transportation Committee. This is an early VTOL that was developed in Denver, flying car, because it was designed by a Denverite to be something you drive on the highway and fly in the air. By the way, I personally think those that try to do that are trying for too much. It's too much. It's a lot to make a car successful. It takes a lot. And some of them aren't very successful, but it takes a lot. And it takes a lot to make an airplane successful. Trying to combine the two into one it's gonna put people in danger. I'm not a fan of that. Okay, where will they land? Okay, they'll land on what is called vertiports, but don't rack your brain thinking what a vertiport would look like or how it would function. Just think helipad. Because 3 weeks ago in New York City, anticipating urban air mobility, that's the flying taxi, New York City changed the name of all of their helipads in the city to skyports. So I think vertiport's gonna go away, helipad's gonna go away, and we're all gonna land on skyports. Okay, this is the one that SpaceX is invested in. I saw this, these are my pictures. I saw it on the floor of the Detroit Auto Show in Detroit, Michigan last year. And if you look at it, it looks a lot like a Mazda Miata. Then, by the way, this is one that goes against my recommendation that you can drive it on the highway or fly it in the air. Look at the hood. It's not like a sheet metal hood. It's a great, like you'd walk over a storm sewer or something. That's because the props are under the hood and under the trunk deck, okay? And it's called A-lift. Now this is one I want, okay? 5 minutes. I gotta go talk faster now. So this is one I want. Think of it as a passenger drone. It is called appropriately the Jetson 1. The 1 denotes it's a 1 passenger. What's really cool about this is you would literally fly it, but you would not fly it, you fly it like a drone, but you fly it inside the cabin. So you fly yourself. It's small enough you can land in your driveway, park in your garage, and light enough you can throw in the back of an F-150. Originally, don't let these prices, these dollar amounts scare you, because we all remember when flat screen TVs first came out. We just replaced one we bought for $4,000 25 years ago with a better TV for under $400. These were originally priced at $195,000. They're already down to $127,000. What's cool about this is it will fly at speeds of up to 60 to 70 miles per hour, and it has a battery range of about 90 to 100 miles. So maybe I ought to get one with me when I get one. That'll be my Monday vehicle, okay? Then on Tuesday, I want the X-Bang Aerohot. Now, this is out of China, but they've got them that are just flying vehicles. China, a year ago, I would have said China's right on our tail, but we're ahead. Today, I would say China has moved ahead. They're already flying these. They've got the factories built. That's one of the factories. And they plan to have 100,000 of these in the air by 2030 in China. And they're all autonomous. They're already contracting for services with cities around China to do urban air mobility that's be like, instead of a bus tour around the city, you do an aerial tour. And so since it's pilotless, I guess it's gonna be recording up there. I don't know how that works. This is one called Pivotal. It's the one that was in the New Yorker column. And it was founded by a guy out of Canada, but it's now headquartered at Google, at the Google campus, because the main investor, after he got his money out of West Arrow, Larry Page is the main investor in this. It's a 1 passenger. You see, I took the photos. I haven't flown it, but I've flown the simulator. And I've talked to people who have not only bought one, but own it and fly it. Okay, this is one called Drone Aerospace. It's out of Pompano Beach, Florida. It's a 2 passenger. You see, he parks it in front of a garage. 2 minutes. Got to really talk this. Okay, so but it would take up both sides of the parking. Here's Whisk Arrow. I'm just going to go through these really fast. Archer Aviation. Their partners are Boeing, Stellantis, the car company, and United Airlines. And United already has orders in for several of these. The factory's already built. It's in Covington, Georgia, and they're signing contracts. Their first operations will be in Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates, and they plan to be in the air in December of this year. This is their map. This is their map around New York City. There's downtown airport. The Skyports, JFK, EWR, Republic, and which is out in Long Island, but it's a whole network of urban air mobility around New York. They also have plans for San Francisco Bay that would land on the water. Let's go on to another important one, and that's Joby Aviation. Joby's invested in by Boeing and Toyota and by Delta Airlines. And they're building their factory as a nod to Orville and Wilbur Wright at the airport in Dayton, Ohio. This picture was taken from the escalator, but that's the scene you saw earlier where the red was signed by the FAA administrator. A Joby was on display there. Founded by Joe Ben Bevert, and that's where they get the name Joby. I talked to a group in Jeff City on Friday. He took a picture of the book. He sent it to his investment advisor. His investment advisor said, yeah, if you want to speculate, buy 1,000 shares. He did that Monday. Toyota increased their investment $250 million on Tuesday, and the stock price jumped on this 29%. Okay, Boeing. I'm going to do these real fast. Just going to hit them. This is Boeing's own in-house project. This is the hang out of China. By the way, don't let the parachutes scare you. When it comes to parachutes, there are a lot of American planes, which Cirrus, are all built with parachutes, and they saved a lot of lives. Here's my motto on parachutes: I'd rather have them, not need them, than need them, and not have them. Okay. This is Eve out of Brazil, and United has orders for 200 of these. And I talked to Eve. It's owned by Embraer. They're building their factory in just outside of in Brazil. And they've got a year ago they had 3,000 orders. They have probably 5,000 now from airlines. And then this is Textron or Bell Helicopter. This is Hyundai's internal project. It's called Supernal. I got to see it unveiled at the CES last year in Las Vegas. And then let's just go on real quick. I'm just gonna hit these, show you the images over Butterfly, Paragon, cool looking vehicles, by the way. I want one of each, but we have one. This is vertical. It's invested in by American Airlines and also Virgin Atlantic. It's out of Birmingham, England. This is Sirius out of Germany, but I think they're moving their headquarters to the US. It's battery electric, but they're testing with hydrogen. This is SkyDrive. Toyota's also invested in this, as well as Suzuki. It's a drone company that's now building flying cars. Did you get that? A drone company. So they're drawn up to build flying cars. And that's their single occupancy vehicle. So I want one of those for Tuesday at least, maybe a couple of. So I'm gonna stop right there. Thanks for the opportunity to meet again. And I'll, do we have time for Q&A or should I just hang around?
Really not.
Okay, I'll hang around if anybody has any.
Thank you very much for being here today. I'm sure you're aware Rotary is working to eradicate polio from the world. As a thank you for your time today, we'll be donating 60 doses of polio vaccine in your name. So thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. It looks like we're gonna have a gorgeous weekend. So go out and share the magic of Rotary with the community around you.